I am Ajit Prasad. I did my master's and PhD from the Maharaja Sajirao University of Baroda. I have been in archaeology for the last 40 years or so. I did my uh, primarily the PhD research on prehistory, Stone Age archaeology of one of the river valleys in the eastern margins of Gujarat, which resulted in the discovery of primary contact sites in Gujarat, and then did an extensive study of that to understand how the prehistoric settlements actually came into existence there, the kind of development that took place in that region, and also were able to find out the transition from the lower Paleolithic, which we call the Acheulean, to the early or the middle Paleolithic. Subsequently, I also started focusing on the Harappan archaeology. That's primarily because I got involved with the excavations the department conducted or still continue to conduct on Harappan sites. And then participated in most of the excavations from the second half of 1980s onwards, and also kind of directed the excavations, some of the excavations later part of my career. The sites which we excavated, in fact, are initially small rural settlements belong to the Indus civilization, which were found in Gujarat. And then we also excavated to larger settlements, relatively larger settlements like Bagasra and Shikapur, which kind of brought in some interesting understanding about the cultural development, the regional features of the Harappa culture in Gujarat, how old the Harappan economic production actually was integrated through different features of adaptation, both the cultural adaptation as well as the technological adaptations. Um, these are the areas which I actually focused my research in the last 40 years. I still work on Paleolithic archaeology of primarily Gujarat, trying to understand the how exactly one can actually kind of understand the archaeological evidence for understanding the dispersal of modern humans. In the case of Paleolithic archaeology, there are several interesting issues. How exactly the transition from the one particular technology, that Acheulean technology, the Middle Paleolithic technology, actually happened. There is a series of interesting investigations and research that is going on in our country, not only in our country, in other parts of the world. And then our researchers have actually been contributing quite immensely in this area. And equally important is the research in Harappan archaeology. Some of the aspects which we actually investigated is what we call how exactly the craft productions in fact were actually organized by the Harappans, how exactly it evolved. It is essential to kind of incorporate the current available scientific technology for understanding the technologies which the Harappans actually use. There are several areas of Harappan technology which are still properly understood. So one of these is provenance studies, which has been actually kind of addressed by several scholars. There are several gray areas even today which needs proper attention. The other aspect which actually comes to my mind is that understanding the diversity of Indus civilization, we actually take it for granted that there is a uniformity in the Harappan cultural development. There obviously you do come across certain uniformity. That is essentially because the technology was actually shared by people of different regions. At the same time, if you actually look closely, you do actually come across the regional diversities. One of the things in the Harappan archaeology, in fact, is the recognition of this diversity within the larger frame of the what we call the Harappan civilization, and that has been actually brought into focus by many scholars, and then there are still a lot of scope to actually understand how in other regions, these regional features or regional traits got incorporated into the larger frame of Harappan cultural development. The other area where the current research, in fact, is focusing upon is the kind of exploitation, both the plant and animal exploitation during the Harappan times, even prior to the emergence of the Harappa culture in different parts of Indus Valley as well as into Gujarat. We have actually kind of carried out researches to understand how hunting and gathering population actually kind of adapted or actually evolved into food producing way of life. There are no one particular way they actually kind of pathway they actually kind of followed in this process. Primarily what one can see is that hunting and gathering population adapting to the environment in which they are actually living in, and then exploiting the resources that are available in that region, and changing their life phase by adapting food producing way of life. This has been actually kind of demonstrated by our research in North Gujarat, where we actually come across the emergence of agro-pastoral way of life going back to 3600 BC from hunter-gatherer substratum. We actually did use both residue analysis as well as fatty acid residue analysis, as well as phytolith and starch grain residue analysis, and isotope studies to understand various aspects of cultural evolution or cultural adaptation, both hunter-gatherers as well as food-producing cultures, which includes in the later stage the Harappan civilization. As far as the prospects of archaeological research, especially in the in the subcontinent is actually concerned, the new hotspots in archaeological research, in fact, are isotope-based studies, residue analysis, as well as using technologies like mass spectrometry, etc. This would actually help us to enhance our understanding about how animals and plants were essentially exploited by people of different economic strata. In this economic strata, when I say of different periods, not economic strata, different period, be it hunting and gathering stage, or in the food producing stage, that is agro-pastoral economy, or during the Harappa culture. The other area which one can actually think of, where where archaeology need to focus upon is understand using remote sensing techniques of remote sensing, including GIS-based analytical tools for understanding the settlement features, focusing on different regions, and how that can help us to understand the general settlement pattern, because every site actually is interdependent. So understanding that interdependency essentially is based on how how different sites actually came into existence in a region, how they are functionally related to how they are exchanging things, how they are interacting each other. That would help us to understand how exactly the overall cultural system actually worked. One of the enduring enigmas of Indus civilization, in fact, is the Harappan script. In spite of it being discovered almost 100 years back, we are yet to decipher. We do know a lot about the scripts, its different characters, etc., its evolution to some extent, etc. But it has not yet been deciphered. We certainly do not know what language or what languages were actually are reflected in the script, in the inscriptions, or the script which is actually used for write on the seals or other places. What one can actually, while keep on trying, using different technologies or different tools to unravel or decipher the script, it is absolutely necessary to kind of document each and every aspect of the script, and create a database that could actually be accessible to every researcher who is actually interested into kind of understanding the script, and someday one actually hope it could actually be cracked. One does understand the serious impediments in deciphering the script in the absence of a bilingual script. As many of the scholars have actually said that it's almost impossible to decipher the script without having a bilingual script, and also longer inscriptions. Despite that, shortcomings, we should keep on kind of trying to decipher the script. We should actually hope that one day we will be in a position to understand what is actually kind of written in those enigmatic seals and sealings which we come across the alphabet.